Hi, everybody. So I'm
Hello.
really excited. I wanted to do something on my channel for Thanksgiving. Last year I did a Thanksgiving tag, and I decided it would be fun if we celebrated the movies. And my friend Tom was kind enough to join me, and we're going to talk about movies we're thankful for. And so you want to say hi, introduce yourself, Tom?
Hello, everyone. I am Tom Blakeney. I do film reviews, my thoughts videos, and the link to my channel will be in the description below. Thank you, Rachel, for having me back on. It's great to be back. And okay, I know I don't celebrate Thanksgiving here in the UK, but I just figured why not? You know,
Hey, yeah.
I've got nothing else to do.
We've all got plenty to be grateful for, so
Yep.
so why not? Uh,
Yeah.
and so I have the chat room open, if you guys have any comments, and so for we each chose 5 films, and for my 5 films, I wanted to pick 5 movies that Tom had seen, because otherwise it would be very boring
Yeah.
for me to just talk about them, and also I don't know. I just felt like it would be super boring for me to get on here and talk about The Little Mermaid, and talk about Up, and talk about, like the movies I talk about all the time on my channel. And so I gave a list to Tom of 25 movies for him to pick from that I love. And so he picked those 5. So that's how I came up with my list. And then Tom came up with his list. And at least for me, mine are not in sort of numerical order.
In no particular order.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're just gonna talk about them, and talk about why we particularly are grateful for these films, and it's gonna be something new we haven't tried before on my channel, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Is there anything how you came up with your list, or do you just kind of
just came up with it, really?
Yeah. Cool. All right. So I guess I will go ahead and get started. So the first movie that I'll talk about on my list is The Avengers. And this was made in 2012 by director Joss Whedon. And it had a budget of $220 million, and it made $1.52 billion. And it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 92%. And the reason why I'm grateful for The Avengers is because I had sworn off superhero movies. I thought these movies are so bad. They're so stupid. I don't like them. And I was like, I'm not even going to see. I didn't even see it when it came out. I didn't see it till 2013. And because I was just so over superhero movies. And I was just, my friends were like, you got to see it. You're going to love it. And so I watched it, and I had not seen the Thor movies. I had not seen all the MCU movies. I had seen Iron Man. But anyway, so I watched The Avengers, and I was blown away by it. I thought it was so fun, so much fun, so funny. I loved all the performances. I loved how they got together over Agent Coulson's passing. There was like an emotional core to the film that made it really good, and I just really liked spending time with these heroes and just the energy of it, and so I still love it. I still think it is so enjoyable to watch. I love all the dialogue, the quippy Joss Whedon dialogue, and it's still my favorite superhero. Well, that and The Incredibles, my favorite superhero movies ever made. So I don't know. What do you think about The Avengers?
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it's really interesting how the Avengers the effect that movie had would later affect Civil War with the collateral damage. And, for its time back in 2012, 2012 was a pretty big year because we had The Avengers and The Dark Knight Rises. And, both films are two completely different films entirely, and just seeing those characters interact with one another for the first time after building it up, after so many movies from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, starting with Iron Man, and just seeing these characters interact with one another. It's really something that I thought would never really thought of. Because, okay, yes, they do interact with each other in the comics, but anyway, we've never really seen that in the movies.
Yeah.
And yes, I know in the DC animated universe, there's the Justice League. So, but in terms of the movies, we've never seen these characters like in a movie together. And
well, I mean, and
you know,
and now going back, now I have watched them in order. It's interesting because to me it's a satisfying experience either way. It's satisfying on its own as a superhero movie, and it's satisfying. It's even more satisfying as a sort of build up, you know, and you watch all of these, you know, these 5 movies that came before it. I think it's 5, and it's just like see all these people all collaborate together, and Loki is so great in it, and I love that scene where Tony Stark is talking to Loki. It's so good. The dialogue is so good, and you know, these are just, I think what they do at Marvel that's so great is just like they have these heroes that you just like so much, and you know, you're just rooting for them, and they're just so much fun.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Earlier you brought up Agent Coulson's death, even though he does get brought back in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which, I'll be honest, I have not seen any episodes post. I think it was, I only got up to 8 episodes and then I just stopped. So I have no idea how he came back from the dead, so we'll just excuse that for the time being. But
in the movies, he's gone.
Yeah. In the movies, but in the TV shows, yeah, he does get brought back from the dead. I can't speak today. I'm sorry. But yeah, looking back on it, it was really a big change in terms of superhero films, and you know, considering that everyone is trying to do it nowadays, you know, DC is doing it with the Justice League, even though
trying to do it,
let's not turn this into bashing against DC.
Right.
I mean, guys, it's like they have made good movies.
Sure,
guys.
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
But just the focus is different. The focus, and not neither one is necessarily bad, but just the focus on in Marvel is on heroes, and I've always really responded to that because I'm more of a hero person than a villain person. So I love all of the casting in the Avengers. I mean, it's just perfect. You know, you have,
even though they did have a bit of a recasting with the Hulk, so
yeah, that's true.
There's that.
But for the better, I think. Don't you think?
Yeah, but even then, it's not exactly the first time Marvel have done that, because remember, Terrence Howard was originally Rhodey, and then in Iron Man 1, and then in Iron Man 2, he was replaced with Don Cheadle. So
I think Mark Ruffalo is an improvement, though, don't you think?
I haven't seen the Incredible Hulk movie, so I don't know.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Like, Edward Norton's a good actor, but very good actor. He might even be a better, just as far as acting chops, than Mark Ruffalo, even though they're both good. But I just think that he was acting in trying to be sort of a Oscar-worthy performance in a superhero movie, if that makes sense. Like, he was just like Mark Ruffalo's having a lot more sort of fun with the character. It's not as showy a performance, so which is more pleasant for me to watch. But I love Joss Whedon's dialogue. I think he is so great at writing dialogue, and I love, I don't know, just about everything. I love the way the shots are. I love all the, people make fun of all the circle shots, the way they do that. I love it. I think it looks great.
Yeah,
really,
it looks pretty cool.
It immerses you in. And what's your favorite MCU film?
Now that I've thought about it, I would probably say Civil. It's either Guardians or Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Though I am kind of leaning towards Captain America: Civil War, mainly because I feel that it pretty much just took the events that happened in the Avengers Age of Ultron, Iron Man 3, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, made those elements into one movie just so that they feel relevant and feel as if they are part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah. It's a really good film, so I can see that. My top three are definitely the Avengers, Guardians, and Iron Man are my three favorite.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's my first one. So what is your first one you want to talk about?
The first one I want to talk about is Spider-Man 2. And the reason why I am thankful for this, and I think recently rewatching it, I can love it more, mainly because I am thankful for this movie because it understands who Peter Parker is and who he is as a character and why he is Spider-Man. Because, okay, this is largely down to different interpretations, but I see Peter Parker as someone who wants to balance his personal life and his duties as Spider-Man. But even then, he doesn't exactly do that well, and it does take time for him to learn the meaning with great power comes great responsibility. And because, let's face it, we've all been through that stage where, you know, we're doing some good things, but we're not getting anything out of this. And, okay, let me just ask you a question. Would you seriously just be all like, if your personal life is falling to bits, would you seriously just be all like, oh, I'm doing all right.
All right.
Would you seriously just do that?
All right.
No, you would not. You seriously would not. And look, people can say that Garfield is better than Maguire. People will constantly say that, and
I disagree. I disagree strongly.
I disagree with that entirely. And you know, let's just put the Amazing Spider-Man films in the past.
Move on. We're moving on. Yeah, I love Spider-Man 2. That's in my top 10 of superhero movies. I think it is such a good movie. It's a coming of age story about somebody really kind of that moment where you realize, like, oh shoot, I'm an adult. Like I gotta grow up. I gotta deal with this stuff, and it's really good, and it has. I mean, Dr. Octopus is so good.
Yep.
In it.
And and I will quickly say, Dr. Octopus actually does have a motivation as to what he wants to do, but unfortunately, Spider-Man keeps on getting in his way, and it was never meant to be a personal thing between Doc Ock and Spider-Man. It's just Dr. Octopus wanted to do something, but unfortunately, Spider-Man kept on getting in his way. So, something I feel that the Spider-Man movies, post Spider-Man 2, is doing really hard to do, but not getting why it worked. So
yeah, well, and you just see this sense of sort of loss on the part of Dr. Octopus that you feel empathy for him, even though he's a villain.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do. I mean, that's something that, like, not to beat a dead horse, but something like a character like Apocalypse. I don't feel any empathy for Apocalypse and X-Men Apocalypse. He's just sort of a and so whereas this is like a real character who has like an arc and has like a story and has a loss that he has to deal with, and he has he has to deal with even his own loss of his own body and those things. So yeah, I think it's really strong, and the train sequence is so good.
Yep, so good.
It holds up. It absolutely holds up.
Really does hold up. It's one of the best superhero fights I've ever seen. And look, I can understand, your complaints about X-Men Apocalypse. I really honestly do, but personally, I thought he was okay. I mean, look, I can understand why you don't like him. I completely understand, but
it's just the easiest example I could think of
Yeah.
a character and a villain I felt no empathy for. I felt nothing for him. Whereas that's the only reason I bring it up is
but then again, we do have Enchantress, so
yeah, I felt no empathy for her either. So maybe I should use her as an example. But
belly dancing.
Yeah. And
what was that exactly?
It was horrible. It was all it was. It was horrible. I didn't feel any empathy for Enchantress, even though they tried to kind of make her sort of this tragic character. But in the case of Spider-Man 2, you really feel empathy for Dr. Octopus in his life and what has happened. And I think that's what makes it a really good movie. Yeah. So, and you also have Harry's storyline in there, which is really good.
Oh yeah, Harry's storyline. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
My mind just went completely blank then.
And it's on 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it made a budget of $200 million and it made $783 million. And this was 2004. Sam Raimi was director. And you just have to think also like 2004, that was before all of these cinematic universes and all of this things. So to make a movie like that, I remember when it came out and Roger Ebert was like, wow, it was I think he said it was the best superhero movie he'd ever seen. Up to that point.
I think you are correct on that one. And, to think that, if it wasn't for the first two X-Men and Spider-Man movies, we would never have had the Dark Knight trilogy or the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah.
So it's a good one to pick to be thankful for. And I completely agree about Tobey Maguire. I think he is a human. I think he's vulnerable. I think he's not somebody, as much as I love some of these Avengers, they're more sort of invincible. They're not quite as human as Tobey Maguire is in Spider-Man. So it's a great choice.
People will undoubtedly complain about Tobey as an actor or as a person.
I love it. I like him as an actor. Even when he misses, I think he goes for it. He really tries, and he always has that. So people hate Spider-Man 3 so much, but I'd personally way rather watch that than a lot of
Amazing Spider-Man movie.
Sorry.
And look, people, whatever has come out saying stuff about him by some stupid person whose name I shall not be saying, but you know who you are.
Exactly.
Look, I don't know whether this is true or not. And to be honest, I didn't even bother looking at it. So
no, it's just his performance. That's what we're judging. And like you said, it's a
not
great
him
one
as a person.
Yeah,
people,
and it's
put
a great
that aside.
One. It's a great one to pick for this because it really is a movie that brought on a lot of other really good movies. So good pick. Yeah. Okay, so my next film that we're going to talk about is probably a somewhat obvious pick. We're going to talk about Star Wars, and a little indie film, that. And Star Wars you have to have on something like this because it literally changed everything. So if you're going to you could say, well, the first Star Wars movie isn't maybe the best of the series, but it's certainly the one we need to be the most grateful for sure. I love it. I love the first Star Wars. I think it is so much fun. I love getting introduced to all of the characters, and I love all the humor, and I love the action. And when he, is diving in to the, to hit the Death Star, that's so exciting. And
Yeah.
it's still one of the best experiences I've ever had in a movie theater. When I went to the re-release in like '97, I went.
That was when the whole "Who Shot First" Tano Greedo.
Yeah. And
Oh
yeah,
boy.
exactly. And anyway, I was in the theater and everybody was just cheering, and it was just one of those experiences that's just the best.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I love all of the characters. I love the world that he created, and I love the fact that with Star Wars, it's really about a family, and
Mm,
it's about the Skywalkers and their journey. You know, as much as we, you know, sometimes hate on the prequels, and they're
yeah.
very, very flawed films, they do
Mm,
tell this story altogether of the Star Wars movies about this family and
mm,
about the experiences that they have. And you know, when you get to Jedi, and when Vader says, you know, Luke says, I need to save you. And Vader says, you already have. I mean, that movie, that moment wouldn't mean so much if you hadn't been through this journey with these characters. But it
yeah.
does. So good. But I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts on Star Wars? I don't think I've ever talked to you about Star Wars.
Um, it's something that, looking at it as a film, at the time it was a big change for cinema,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at it, it still holds up. Special editions are put
Right,
aside
right,
the
right.
special editions. At the time, this was like a, a really good film, and if it wasn't for this movie, we would never have had the franchise as it is today. And put aside the prequels for a minute or two, and I will quickly say, it's a good idea how it has a good idea in there how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader. It's a good idea, but I just think the execution could have been a lot
Sure.
better in the prequels
Sure.
than we got. And people can bash Hayden Christensen and Jake Lloyd all they want, but it's pretty much beaten to a dead horse at this point. And yeah,
they're not strong films, but the core idea I do like, and
yeah.
I would give the first two a D's, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm like miserable watching them. Like I can enjoy watching something that I know isn't really a very good movie.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I will say that with the Phantom Menace, I feel that there are redeeming moments in that movie.
Sure.
And with Attack of the Clones, it's okay. While it may not be awful, but yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's really bad.
Really, really bad. I don't like sand. It's coarse and irritating.
Oh my gosh, it's so bad. That's got to be the
Not
worst
like
chemistry of
where
any.
everything is soft and smooth.
Yeah, no, I know,
Oh.
I know. There's no doubt about it.
It's
The
pretty
dialogue,
bad.
the dialogue is terrible.
Yeah.
The chemistry is horrible.
Yeah.
So I agree 100%.
Yeah, and Revenge of the Sith I thought was pretty decent. I will say.
Yeah.
It does get a lot of things right, but horribly fails with others. So Revenge of the Sith I feel is somewhat decent.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's just nothing. I mean, I just couldn't imagine having a list like this and not talking about Star Wars, because I mean, it just changed everything. It changed blockbusters. This and Jaws. It changed. I mean, even down to the music and the way it used its theme, and the John Williams iconic music, and the
Gotta
creation.
have John Williams.
Oh, it's so good, and the creation of Darth Vader as just this villain, and that is never to be topped. And I mean, I could go on all day about Star Wars. I mean, of course, it was directed by George Lucas. This is 1977. It had a budget of $11 million back then, and it, of course, made $774 million.
Yep.
So yeah, you could say it was a mild hit.
Yeah, you could very well say that.
And I do hate the special editions very much. I
Yeah,
just find them extremely frustrating.
yeah,
I think that when you have these artists, I see the same thing sometimes with someone like J.K. Rowling, or not, although not as bad. But it's just like they can't just leave their world, alone. They got to kind of peck
yeah,
at it and peck at it and peck at it and peck at it. And I
yeah,
think you definitely saw that with George Lucas, and you see that with some other
yeah.
creators. That's just they I think they think they're doing what's best for their
Mm.
world, but they really are not.
Yeah, and interesting that you brought up J.K. Rowling when because originally when Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them came out, I had no interest in seeing it.
Yeah.
And reason why I saw it was because, J.K. Rowling was writing the scripts for this. Because usually it was she wrote the books and then someone adapted it to the movies, hence why the differences between the books and the movies. So I was kind of interested to see it. And I'll be honest, I just went into this with low expectations because, the secret to happiness in life is low expectations.
Right.
That never gets old.
That's right. And yeah, I don't know, somehow I ended up going into it with high expectations. I don't know why, but anyway, yeah. But speaking of Fantastic Beasts, we will be talking about that film on me and Abby and Jeremy and Richard will be talking about that on Saturday. So
Hooray!
yay! All right.
Yay!
I think that I mean, do you have anything else you want to say about? I mean, just the every level, the makeup, the design of the droids, the
music,
the production design, everything about it is just new and different. And I just love how tight the original Star Wars film is. There's never a time in the original Star Wars movie, at least for me, that I'm bored. Like, it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. I love the introduction to the Jedi and the lore of the Force. And when Luke looks at the lightsaber for the first time, and Obi-Wan says that this was from a more
your father wants you to have this when you were old enough.
Yeah, this was
but
from
your uncle wouldn't allow it.
The weapon of a different time, a different era. I forget exactly how he says it, but it's just great. It's so good.
The weapon of a Jedi Knight.
Yeah.
Not as clumsy or as random as a blaster. An elegant weapon.
Elegant weapon, yeah, that's what he says.
Civilized age.
A civilized age. Yeah, so good. And Harrison Ford, so good. And so what's your
Dad?
What?
Julia, come here, Julia. Shut up, Dad.
What's your favorite Star Wars movie? Is it
it's either Empire Strikes Back or The Force Awakens, and chances are I know you're probably going to get a lot of hate for saying good stuff about The Force Awakens.
Not in my world. I love Force Awakens.
Yeah, I love it as well. Yeah,
I do. I love it.
My favorite of 2015.
Mine Inside Out, but then also the next is Force Awakens. So.
Yeah.
Cool.
One of the best 2015.
Definitely, for sure. All right. So what's your next?
Next one I have is Blade Runner. Now, with this one, for the first time, I actually saw this in the cinema, mainly because they had I think it was a unlimited screening of Blade Runner. In case anyone is asking, this is the final cut of Blade Runner. So before anyone asks, no, it's not the theatrical, it's the final cut. And yeah, I actually saw that in the cinema on I think it was on the Friday, and just being blown away by it, and visually how it looks, and even the music does resemble music that so of good. Of the sci-fi ish, and I would definitely say that it is definitely one of Ridley Scott's best movies. And of course he did Alien, of course, but I haven't seen Alien, but
Ah,
yeah. But I will say I have seen his other movies, Prometheus, which it's okay.
oh, that's interesting. You've seen Prometheus, but not Alien.
Yeah, uh, don't judge me.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
judging. I am judging. No, just kidding.
Okay.
No, it's just
Yeah.
because Prometheus is a prequel to
Yeah.
Alien.
I know. Yeah, I know.
Uh,
And of course, I saw Exodus, which we're not going to talk about that.
that movie was so bad. Yeah.
Yeah, not a very good movie. And of course, The Martian,
Yeah. Love
which
that.
I thought it was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
one
was
of his better movies in recent years, in my opinion.
and really good book adaptation. I loved the book, and I really liked the movie. But yeah, Ridley Scott.
I haven't read the book.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
Anyway, Blade Runner. This was 1982. It has 100% Rotten Tomatoes. It had a budget of $28 million, and it made 33.8. So it didn't do all that well at the box office.
And considering that this was the exact same year that E.T. came out, so at the time E.T. was the popular thing in 1982 that a lot of films, including Blade Runner, did suffer from. And since then, Blade Runner has become a cult classic. So.
Right. The interesting thing, I actually saw Blade Runner in January on the big screen for the first time. Yeah, me as well. And it was an interesting experience for me because I started it, and for about the first 20 minutes, I was so confused. I did not understand what was going on. I didn't understand what the characters were doing or I just was confused. And so I actually went out into the hallway, and I looked up the Wikipedia on my phone, and I read the synopsis because and a lot of people say, well, how could you do that? Then you'd be spoiling it. But for me, it made it such a more pleasant experience because I had kind of a framework to kind of put all this stuff I was seeing into some kind of place, if that makes sense. And so after that, I loved it. But I was like, oh my gosh, I don't understand. I was just confused. And so I can see why maybe audiences didn't warm up to it real fast, because I think it's a movie that takes a little bit of work. It throws a lot at you, a lot of different ideas, but it's really, really good. Just visually, it's so beautiful.
Yeah. And I will say that there are definitely moments where I did sort of lose interest, and some moments are more interesting than others. I will admit, people, I will definitely admit that.
I mean, what do you think that Blade Runner's sort of trying to say? What do you think the metaphor is?
That, I would say, is up for discussion, I would say. And I would say, I don't know, it's an interesting one to talk about, what it's trying to say. And I feel that it's a good amount of questions, like, is Harrison Ford's character a duplicate or not? So I would say that is up for discussion, but what it's trying to say is interesting to really talk about, and
I think that it's trying to
difficult to really get it into words, and why.
I think what it's trying to say is it's talking about what makes something human. And you have all these replicants that are going to die, and
replicants,
they're only
not duplicants. Sorry, people.
They know that their time is limited, the replicants, and so they value that time so much, and the humans don't sort of value it as much. And so you've got sort of this, like, what is it that are the replicants more human than the humans because they value their humanity? Like, what is it that makes that's sort of the theme that I took from it. But there's lots of like, lots of other themes you could take from it about technology, about religion. There's themes in there. Just lots of different things.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just one of those movies that I think that anybody could kind of watch and get maybe something different out of it, and that you could watch multiple times at different points of your life and get different things out of it.
Definitely.
So, and like I said, it is just beautiful, and the music, as you said, is really good too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and Harrison Ford, great. I think that Harrison Ford is actually a little bit underappreciated for how good of an actor he actually is. You look at movies like in Blade Runner, like in he's in all these blockbusters, and it's easy to discount somebody who's in blockbusters, but he doesn't have that many really bad performances. He's got some, but he doesn't have that many.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that many.
Damn it! Get off my plane! Dad!
I love it. All right.
I could just do Harrison Ford impressions all day.
I know. I love it. Hey, kid. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so and
I just got a Twitter notification from Joe.
Oh, yeah?
Hooray!
Tell him to get on this and join our join the chat.
All right. You keep talking. All
right.
I'll listen.
Okay. So the next one that I wanted to talk about in this is from 2014. We're going to talk about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This is the second of the Apes reboot. And this is one of the most successful remakes or reboots, whatever you want to call it, I think ever made. These two movies are so good, in my opinion. And this was my second favorite movie of 2014. The only one just under the movie Boyhood, which I just loved. I loved this movie also. And this movie is by director Matt Reeves. And
there we go.
And
message sent.
All right. Director Matt Reeves. This movie cost $170 million, and it made 710. And it has a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. And the thing that I think that is especially amazing about this movie is, you can talk about the motion capture and how great Andy Serkis is, amazing. But I think that it does an incredibly bold thing in the way that it portrays war, because it'd be so easy to portray that peace is good and war is bad. But that is not what this movie does. This movie has like an actual discussion about when do we protect versus when do we seek peace. When are we appeasing the enemy, and when, and hurting ourselves and not protecting ourselves, and when do we need to seek peace. And that's sort of the battle between what's his name, the two apes, between Caesar and what's his name, can't think of his name, the Toby Kebbell ape, they're both right. They're both Caesar wants, believes that war is bad and wants to protect his, civilization from war. But the Toby Kebbell, what's his name? Let's see here. He wants to protect his people from the invaders who have hurt him in the past. And he sees Caesar as being an appeaser. And I just thought that was such a
Oh, and Rachel, Joe just joined the chat, and
yay!
His name is Koba.
Koba! Thank you. Yeah, and I just thought that was brilliant, the way they did that. And my other...
Hooray, he got my message!
Love it. Hi, Joe!
Thank you, Joe. Hello!
Happy Thanksgiving! And we did have a comment from...
Happy Thanksgiving!
We did have a comment from Reese a while back. He says, the whole of Pixar in general was what I'm thankful for. And so we're going to talk. I just wanted to let him know we're going to talk about Pixar quite a bit coming up.
Hooray!
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That just really blew me away. That they sort of took on that message in such a subtle and thoughtful way. And yet it still had all of the fun stuff that you expect from a blockbuster. It still had the battles and still had, the cool special effects and the other stuff that you want. And so I don't know. I just think that that's great. And also I think the other scene that just stuck with me so much in this movie is when they finally get power back and the Gary Oldman character can actually charge his iPad or whatever. And his family is gone, but he's also lost all of the images of his family because they were on these tablet. They were all on these electronic devices, and so when you lose the electronic devices, you lose the images of your family. And I never thought about the fact because I never print photos anymore ever unless I'm going to frame it. I don't print it. Yeah. It's all on electronic devices. And so I would have the exact same thing happen to me. Like if something happened where I lost the ability to access those electronic devices, I would lose all of those images. And, I don't know. So that scene when he's finally able to see his boys again and see their pictures, that was so emotional, I thought. So anyway, what do you think of this movie? Did you like it? Or...
Yeah, I really liked it, and it was definitely one of the best movies of 2014 that I saw. And, interesting that you brought up, what it's actually saying. And considering that this movie does handle the subjects of war in this movie, and I would say that is handled really well. And bit of a random fact here, but I did not see this until August.
Oh, okay.
It's because I was away and for 2 weeks, mainly because I finished school and was going on to college in September. So I didn't see it when it first came out, and I remember just being immersed within the film and what it's saying, and just thinking about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes really makes me feel excited for War of the Planet of the Apes next year. I am really looking forward. Looking forward to that movie.
Oh, that reminds me, I forgot to ask you, are you excited for Blade Runner 2? I was going to ask you.
Yes.
Did Denis Villeneuve?
Yeah, I am really looking forward to it, and I still have not seen his other movies, Prisoners, Enemy, and I think he did Incendies back in, when was it? I think it was 2011, but don't quote me there. But I haven't seen his popular ones like people know about, like Prisoners and Enemy. But I have seen Sicario and Arrival, so... And yeah.
I've only seen Arrival of his films, but just seeing Arrival, I'm like, oh, he's going to be great for Blade Runner, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Arrival, but I don't exactly love it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm on this, but just the visual style, I was like, this will be really good for Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, Joe makes a great point here. He says, I also like the part where the music comes on and everyone gets excited over hearing it again. Even Caesar couldn't deny the impact. That is so true about the music. It's just,
good point.
It's the very best that you could hope for a blockbuster. It's just, it's thoughtful. But it's also fun. It's just got it all. It's just so great. And Reese does say, Reese Taylor says, I really like this film. Can't remember it a whole lot, but I can remember loving it when I saw it. So, and people are always down on remakes, or reboots, whatever you want to call it. But I think that we saw with this film and with Mad Max Fury Road and some other ones, Force Awakens, that you can do the reboot, you can do the remake,
Yeah.
and make it great. So it just depends on if it's a good movie or not.
Yeah.
So.
And I think, okay, here's the thing. It usually does depend on what the script is.
Yeah.
It usually does come down to that.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've got some good ones, but on the other side, you've got some pretty bad ones. Like the RoboCop remake, for example, from a few years ago.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. Is that really bad?
Not a very good movie. But I think I didn't see the original. As a film, though, it's not very good. So you're not missing out on anything.
There's plenty of horrible remakes. One of the worst ones I think. I know a lot of people like this movie, but I think I love the movie Mr. Deed Goes to Town with Gary Cooper and Frank Capra directed and everything. And I don't like Mr. Deeds, the remake of that movie.
Never seen it.
So with Adam Sandler. So of course I don't like it.
Oh, Adam Sandler.
So
what happened to you?
All right. So let's move on. What is your next choice?
My next choice is Toy Story 2. And
yay! Reese will like this.
I knew you were going to say that. Okay, all jokes aside. I am grateful for this movie, largely because it does touch on the subject of growing up and accepting the fact that we all do have to face the inevitable, that we all have to grow up at some point. And, and Woody even says near the end of the film, you're right, I can't stop Andy from growing up, but I wouldn't miss it for the world. So Woody knows that Andy is going to grow up, but he would not miss it for the world. So I think it definitely touches on the subject very well. And granted, you do see the idea of growing up in Inside Out a few years later, but this was pre-Inside Out, and, okay, yes, there are differences, mainly because Toy Story is about toys and Inside Out is what's going on inside your head. So the difference between those, you think that when you get right down to it, this is well, and not to mention the fact that it does have moments in it, and I would say out of the Toy Story trilogy, I would say it's definitely the strongest one of the three. And I might be on my own on this, but I might not be. But and here's my problem. My problem with Toy Story 3 is that I feel that it does take itself a little bit too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that it was a little bit leaning towards the other rather than just balance it out very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that is kind of my main problem that I have with Toy Story 3, but that's a subject for another day. But I feel that with Toy Story 2, I feel that it definitely gets it right on and definitely balances both lighter side and the more grown up side very well, in my opinion. So
yeah, it's a brilliant movie. I love Toy Story 2. It's actually my least favorite of the three, even though I do love it very much. But it's the only reason is because they separate. I love having Buzz and Woody together, and they're not together that much. That's the only reason. I love it. But I mean, when she sings that song, oh my gosh. It's
such a great song.
Oh,
such a really good song. Yeah.
I mean, you'd have you have grown men just crying at this doll losing her owner. I mean, it's so good. And the whole idea of Woody having to kind of deal with his own mortality or his own and that, you know, that he is going to be forgotten, because I think that's like the greatest fear of all of us, is that like that we will be sort of forgotten and left behind. And so Toy Story 2 captures that so well. Plus, it's so funny. It's hilarious. And and it's really interesting too if you find out about the making of that movie, it's all the more impressive that it turned out the way it is. They made it in like an insane, like in under a year. They made it. It's just crazy. And because they had it all planned, and they were going to make it just a direct to DVD sequel, because that's what Disney was doing at the time. And they had been trying to sort of grow these sort of new talent and bring in new directors, and they got it back and they hated it. It was horrible. It was awful. And so that's why they had to bring John Lasseter. They had to, you know, and just scrap it and start it from the beginning. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I love it. And I love the introduction of the new characters, the Bullseye. Like I said, Jessie is so good. And
let's not forget the evil Emperor Zurg.
That's right. So funny.
We meet again, Buzz Lightyear, for the last time.
Yeah.
That never gets old. I'm just going to keep doing impressions. Don't mind me, everyone.
See, Joe says, haven't watched Toy Story in a long time, but I still remember a lot of it. And yeah, that song is really sad. Yeah, for sure.
I always get emotional whenever I hear the song I'll Be Fine on the Outside from When Marnie Was There. I know you posted a link to that on my Twitter. I'll be honest, I always listen to that song, and it's such a really good song. That and When She Loved Me. That both songs I feel are both really good.
That's a good comparison, those songs. Definitely. Yeah. Good.
It just came into my mind.
Joe says the first Toy Story is his favorite, so he agrees with me. That's also my favorite. I just, it holds up so well, and I just love this dynamic of, it's basically like a buddy movie, and I've seen Woody kind of learn to deal with his envy and his jealousy, something I can really relate to and feel for. And just the writing is so brilliant in that first one. They're brilliant in all three of them. So we're talking about just the most. I just love them all so much. It's one of the best trilogies of all time.
Yeah.
It's right up there with your Star Wars and your, any other trilogy you could imagine. So
Indiana Jones trilogy.
Yeah, I mean, except for I don't like Temple of Doom. I like things about it, but I just can't stand that shrieking woman. She makes me crazy. Anyway.
I don't blame you.
But it's a great movie, and it looks beautiful, and it still holds up as far as the animation. If you look at other animated films from that time period, this was made in 1999. If you look at other animated CG films from 1999, they don't look nearly as good as Toy Story 2 still does. And directed by John Lasseter, who is the king. All hail John Lasseter.
John Lasseter for life.
And he rescued Walt Disney, so we can all be grateful to him for that. And
there was a time when Disney wasn't doing particularly well.
No, I just went through that time on my Disney canon. It was rough.
Yeah, let's not dwell on the past. Not dwell on the past, people.
So, all right. Okay, so my next choice is, it's funny because all these movies kind of have a bit of a, I do love like romantic comedies and stuff, but all mine have a bit of a sci-fi kind of a feel, it seems like, except for my last one. We're going to talk about a 2001 A Space Odyssey. is my next choice. And
Yeah.
this is a really good one, I think, to have on this list because it's a movie that requires investment. And I think that's why I should be grateful for it, because it's the first movie that I think I saw and I was like, I don't know, how much do I like this? Do I not like it? Is it boring? Is it whatever? And then I watched it again and I liked it a little bit better. And then I watched it again and I loved it. You know, like every time I'd watch it, I kind of would appreciate a new layer from it. And it's not just sort of this easily sort of digestible movies that you get today and, or, you know, that you often get. And it's something that, because it's really famous for, you know, just sort of having, you know, like the bone thrown in the air, or the, you know, just sort of this imagery and this sort of slow sort of thing. But like the thing that makes it work so well is that everything that you get in 2001: A Space Odyssey it gives you mystery, invites mystery. And you look at the difference between the first Star Trek movie, Star Trek the Motion Picture, was trying to definitely sort of pay homage to the 2001: A Space Odyssey, but none of the shots, they were just sort of slow, boring shots. They didn't give you a sense of mystery about the items. You know, it was just like long looks at the ship or long looks at things. Whereas here it's like, why are they showing us this here? What's going on? And so it helps build sort of momentum to the picture. And it really, really, really works. And it's so beautiful. The cinematography is incredible. The way it uses music is so great. You know, just the whole sort of battle with Hal. Once that really sort of gets into gear, it's so tense and it's so well done, and it's brilliant. And I think, like I said, it just belongs on this list because it's not easily digestible. It's something that takes work, and so I'm grateful for that. What do you think about 2001?
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, I can see why you do appreciate it, and you know, look, people, I really do appreciate this movie. I really honestly do. And I think visually it looks good. You know, even for the 1960s, and the score, you know, ba 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 ba.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good. And I will say I have only seen this once, and I will quickly say that I think music is good, visually it looks good, but I will say it maybe drags a little bit for me. Like, yeah, I mean, maybe I do need to rewatch it again, and I suddenly know completely like agreeing with me on that one, but anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You should give it a couple watches. Like, honestly, it's just that kind of movie that it's just a bold, different kind of movie. And you know, and maybe it won't be your thing, and I get it. If it's not your thing, then that's fine. But because it's so bold an art piece that it's not going to be for everyone. I get that. Yeah. But you know, it's
maybe a case of style over substance.
A little bit, but
for some people,
for a little bit. But I think the substance is there, particularly once the stuff with Hal starts kind of going.
Yeah, but for some people, it may be style over substance.
Sure. Some people, I would say, if you can't handle 2001, then just watch WALL-E instead. Yeah, because I think that WALL-E is the more digestible version of 2001. I think.
I've only watched WALL-E once. So.
Oh, it's so good.
I haven't watched it in years, so
we don't. Okay, yeah, it's and just you can definitely, like you said, the music, the production design, and I just really appreciate the way that it just every single shot has purpose and meaning. To me, it actually doesn't feel sort of self-indulgent, which a lot of these kind of sci-fi films will feel. Each shot has a real meaning, and there's a reason why he's doing what he's doing, and it kind of creates mystery and makes you think. And so anyway, it's one that it's interesting that I end up talking about it because it's not one that I would put in my like top 10 favorite movies of all time, but it is one that made my my 25. So there you go. And it cost $12 million to make, and it has a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it made $190 million at the box office, so it did pretty good. And 1968, and it wasn't nominated for anything. Can you believe that? Not even cinematography, nothing.
Right.
Stupid Oscars. So we have some comments here. Reese says, my favorite trilogy by a mile is The Hunger Games. I absolutely love watching The Hunger Games, watching the growth of Katniss Everdeen. I'm a bigger fan of the first 2 movies, but the whole trilogy in general is amazing. So there you go. I've actually only seen one Hunger Games movie. But
I'm not exactly a fan of The Hunger Games. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I didn't really like the books. I'm just not that big into dystopian.
Yeah.
But I get why Reese would love it, so that's awesome.
Yeah. I've only listened to the first Hunger Games book, and I just wasn't really into it. And I've only listened to the beginning of Catching Fire, and I still, to this day, have not listened to Mockingjay, so I'm just not really, like, caring about the Hunger Games. And, yeah, I don't really care about the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
But if you like it, great.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
not saying you're wrong or anything like that. If you like it, great.
Yeah, I totally see why people like it, for sure. All right, so that is 2001: A Space Odyssey. Joe says, I have never seen 2001, but it's definitely on my to-watch list, so don't worry. Good. Get it on your list.
Good boy.
Get it on your list. All right.
You also need to see Kubo and the Two Strings.
Yes, Joe, it's on DVD now. You have no excuse. So,
otherwise, I am unfriending you and unfollowing you. If you still haven't watched Kubo.
And everybody go see Moana. It's so good. So good. All right.
It's not out in the UK yet.
What's your number 4?
My number 4 is The Grandmaster. Now, I know you've never heard of this movie because you did ask me about it, what it is. And
I watched it yesterday just to get ready for this.
Like the film or the trailer?
Yeah. Watched it.
Okay. Well, okay, before this. Anyway. Now, going into this, I did not know what to expect going into this. And what I got from this was a really good cinema experience. And just really, in the movie, it pretty much relies on the movement and less of the dialogue,
yeah,
I would say. And this is a foreign movie, so people may or may not, maybe not into foreign movies.
Well,
but
this is a martial arts movie. This is, it's directed by a guy named Wong Kar-wai, and it was 2013. And it almost felt a little bit like a silent movie at times because it would have those title cards where it would sort of summarize kind of what was happening.
Yeah. And here's the thing. The reason why I am thankful for this is because if it wasn't for this movie, I would never have watched The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, which I saw the following year, because when The Grandmaster came out, it came out in the UK in 2014, and then Princess Kaguya came out in 2015. So, and plus, people, I live in the UK, okay? Just deal with it. Anyway, So, so if it wasn't for that movie, I would never have got interested in um, the Tale of the Princess Kaguya, which in, when funnily enough, that movie got me back into animated movies again.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why I am thankful for the Grandmaster.
Cool. That's a really cool reason.
Into foreign movies.
The action scenes are so impressive in it. It reminded me a little bit of like a kung fu movie with a little bit of a Matrix feel to it.
I've never seen any of the Matrix movies.
Oh, okay. Just the way that it used water and the way it used air, and I don't know, just some of the things that kind of remind me a little bit of the Matrix. You should. Yeah. Those are good as well. But yeah, and it just the it's not like a big character piece, but just if you want to watch it.
It's really not. So
no.
If you're expecting going into it, then chances are you'll be very disappointed. Yeah.
And but if you want to watch great action and it's nice too because it's PG-13. It's not too bloody. It's not too violent compared to other kung fu movies or other martial arts movies. And the women, I think, kick butt just as much as the men in the movie, which I liked too. Yeah.
It sort of has that nice balance, I would say. And I will quickly say this was my favorite movie of 2014, so...
Yeah. I wouldn't blame you. Wouldn't blame you. Wouldn't blame you. It was really beautiful. The cinematography was gorgeous. Visually, the colors. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, visually it looked very good. And my personal favorite is the opening fight scene where it's basically just fighting in the rain. And for some odd reason, this always gets me like engaged within the movie. That always gets me every single time. When I got it on Blu-ray when it came out, it always it got me into the movie and really sucked into the movie. That always gets me.
Yeah, it does. It starts it off boom. You really, that fight in the rain is so good.
Yeah.
And they had a move I had never seen before where a character jumps up, does their kick, and lands in the splits. that was really cool. There were a lot of really innovative stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, good pick. That movie had 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, but it had $38 million budget and it made 64. So it basically doubled its budget. And yay! And it was also nominated for Best Costumes and Best Cinematography. So that year.
I do not blame them. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
such a good movie.
Yeah,
I feel like watching it again. For some odd reason.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching it for the first time yesterday, so that was fun. All right, so here's my final pick, and so I ended up picking for is Inside Out. Is the next movie I'm grateful for, and I loved Inside Out so much, and it has become kind of my go-to movie. If I just have 20 minutes, if I have 15 minutes, I can't even watch it all. I'll still just put it on and just be like, I love this movie. It's so good. I just love it. I love everything about it. I love the vocal work. I love the message. I love the laughs that they get. I love the emotion that they get. I love Riley as a character. I love the journey that I love how it has these two different storylines of Riley learning to sort of feel nothing and dealing with that and sort of how devastating that is. I love the journey that Joy goes on where she learns that joy is more, happiness is more than fun. At the beginning, she thinks that it's fun. And for a long time, she keeps that up. And it's not until she really is humbled in that way and she's just devastated in that way that she realizes there's a whole new level to happiness that she never realized. And so that's just so moving. And the animation is so beautiful. And the music is perfect. And I love Bing Bong is so good. And I just love it. I love everything about Inside Out. I could watch it every day for the rest of my life and be completely happy with it. It grows and it becomes even better every time I watch it. And it was my favorite movie of last year, and it's still one of my favorite movies I've seen in the last 5 years for sure. I don't know. What did you think of Inside Out?
I do not blame you for being Inside Out being your favorite of 2015. I honestly do not blame you in the slightest. And interesting story, because I never saw this, again, like with Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I never saw this on opening day. I only saw this in August of 2015, and I went and saw it because, I was not exactly having a good week. My personal life, I'm not going to talk about it right now. Yeah.
Otherwise, movie we'd just be here when you're feeling sad. It's perfect.
Yeah. And I will say it's one of those movies that, upon rewatching it, it always keeps on getting better. This is a movie I feel keeps getting better and better and better. And I just really enjoy the world around in Inside Out. I really liked the emotions in the movie.
Yeah.
And I really liked the message of the movie. I think that is a good message. And, for all, we can't always have like an excellent day or anything like that. No. There are always moments where, we do get some bad days, or we do feel upset. Not everything is all like, happy or anything like that. It's such a really good movie, and it keeps on getting better. Yeah. One of the best.
The Islands of Personality, brilliant. The core memories, like I came out of it just thinking, like, I wonder what my core memories are. What are like the most important thing that I think
Maybe
of.
You have the little emotions inside of your head.
Yeah. It's just so good. We got a lot of comments on this. Reese says, absolutely loved Inside Out. My favorite Pixar movie and favorite movie overall. My favorite thing is how the emotions fit their characters so much. Definitely. And the vocal work, perfect. I mean, perfect. Could they have gotten a better person than Lewis Black to be Anger? Could they have gotten a better person to be Joy than Amy Poehler? I mean, just perfect. Bing Bong, oh my gosh, is so good. I just die inside when Bing Bong.
My dad is a huge Amy Poehler fan.
So good. Let's see. Chase says Inside Out is the only animated film I have ever seen that gets better and better every time I watch it. So there you go. And Joe Tefano says Inside Out is great. It shows people that it's okay to be sad sometimes, whereas society tells people it should just bottle up your emotions and move on. Yeah, I agree. It really does. And that actually, like, not dealing with your emotions actually is like dangerous. You look what's going on with Riley and how it leads her to this dangerous spot where she just feels nothing. Oh my gosh. In the end, when she's like, I miss home. And they're like, it's so good.
Yeah. And it definitely shows that it's okay to tell people.
Yeah.
It's okay to let it all out. You don't need to just bottle everything up. And I'm sorry, but you would kind of have to be in denial to actually think that you'd have to bottle everything up. I'm sorry, but it kind of does. It's a little bit of denial for me, just bottling everything up.
Yeah. It's easy to do, though, because you just feel like, oh, nobody understands.
Definitely. yeah, it's always easy, but it's okay to actually tell people. It really is honestly okay to do that.
I mean, we just had such a great year last year as far as in animation of kids being told, you know what, you're a real person. Like you have your feelings are valid. You look with when Marnie was there and with Inside Out, just that you.
I didn't see that movie until this year, so
yeah. But I don't know, they were just so good in that regard. And I think the Peanuts movie also, those three movies also took kids seriously and didn't patronize to them at all. And it had just the most lovely messages, I think. So it was a really special year, special group of movies, I think, that, just said that, like, I do think that we want kids to always be happy all the time. If they cry, it's like, then they're doing something wrong, then they're doing something bad, when in reality, like, that could be the most healthy response. So see, Joe says, my church showed this movie during the At the Movies series this past summer, and the audience was crying with laughter at certain moments, like with the emotions of Riley's parents. Yeah, hilarious. That's the thing too, is it's so funny. Oh my gosh! Like, I love when they're on the train of thought and the tiles of fact and opinion get toppled over, and they're like, "Oh, that happens all the time." Anyway, so yeah, that is just one of my all-time favorites, and I love that Joe's church does this. That's an awesome idea. At the Movies series, it's really
probably
cool.
the best idea I've ever heard of my life.
Yeah. I agree.
It's the first Pixar movie that, after 5 years, that I actually saw a Pixar movie in cinemas after 5 years. So that's saying something. So
cool. All right. So what is your final pick?
My final pick is Citizen Kane.
Ding, ding, ding.
And thank you for that. Now, back in the summer, I did see this movie at the BFI, where they did show. I think they always show classic movies, and Citizen Kane was definitely one of them. And it's one of those movies that just talking about it, it's just shows how far this movie was.
Yeah.
Because this was released during World War II, and for its time, just looking at it, it still holds up very well.
Yeah,
and,
it does.
The cinematography, I think, is really good. And people, if you thought seeing films like, say, Gravity was amazing up on the big screen, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. Let's just put it that way. You need to see this in the cinema.
Yeah.
As big a screen as you can, people. I don't care if it's like IMAX level.
If you get the Blu-ray, you can listen to Roger Ebert's audio commentary on it. Yeah. It's so good. It's so interesting. And it's just like, I don't know how anyone can doubt that this is the best made movie ever made. I mean, the what they did with the cinematography and is just mind-blowing. I mean, every shot is beautiful. Every shot, the way they use the lighting and the shadows, and they'll create sort of reflections. I love that the scene where you see him looking at himself in the mirror and you see him going back.
So good.
It's so good. I mean, there's just a million shots like that where you see the sort of the reflection of him or the shadow of him. Kind of, he might be saying one thing, but then there's sort of there's just something else in the lighting that kind of tells you something else going on. And it's brilliant.
And I think you did put a comment on my review of Citizen Kane that you were completely jealous that I actually saw it at the BFI. So that's that.
Yeah. And I mean, just it also has like incredible sort of heart, of like, of what is it that makes this I have, my grandfather is is a good man, but he's not a happy man, and he is somebody who's very 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 wealthy, but it has not made him happy. And so for me, when I watch Citizen Kane, I can kind of relate to it because I've seen sort of my grandpa and his sort of struggles, for lack of a better word, and I think that's kind of you see him sort of start off as this little boy, and you see what's taken from him early on and how he can never get that back. He can never get that joy back that he had as a child and that was taken from him by his own mother. And just the journey that he ends up going on, and you just feel such empathy for his character. And so, yeah, it's just great. So it's not only looked great, but it also is great. For sure.
One of the best films I've ever seen.
Yeah, no doubt. So, yeah, I agree. It's hard to argue with Citizen Kane. It's definitely one of the best movies made ever, for sure. Yep. And that was 1941, and Orson Welles, the great Orson Welles, and his acting is really good in it too. I think
really good.
Yeah, and Joseph Cotton is really good in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and to think that he also directed the film that's kind of saying something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Joe says, I saw it for the first time last year for one of my cinema history classes. I really liked it, but I found it really sad, but an interesting insight on what can happen to a person when they have it all. So, yeah, that's basically what it is. So,
that is true. That is very much true, Joe.
So, all right. I guess that is our 10 movies. I hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast. I think it's been really fun just to kind of celebrate these films that we've loved. We talked about Avengers, Star Wars, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, 2001 Space Odyssey, Inside Out, Spider-Man 2, Blade Runner, Toy Story 2, The Grandmaster, and Citizen Kane. So that's a pretty good list, I think.
Very good list. Very good list.
So thanks for joining me on this. I really appreciate it. And thanks to everybody in the chat room. I appreciate your comments. And I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. I'm going to be heading off.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah, I'm going to be heading off. I was responsible for the Jell-O salad, so it's very exciting. Be heading off in just a bit. So anyway, where can people find you, Tom?
Okay, so you can find me on my YouTube channel called Tom Blakeney. You can also find me on my Facebook page called Tom Blakeney Reviews. And you can also find me on Twitter at TomBlakeney1. So be sure to check out me on my YouTube channel, Facebook page, and on my Twitter. So
yeah,
that's
definitely
how you can find me.
Awesome. I have that links in the description section, and you can find me at Smiling LDS Girl on all social media, and of course at Rachel's Reviews. And yeah, happy Thanksgiving, guys.
See ya. Bye.